Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. My name is Faye Channing and I am a channeler, a multi-dimensional channeler to bring messages through this YouTube series for you to feel into, and these are all potentials and just to bring some guidance into what I have been receiving as messages through my channel. So welcome, and if you haven't subscribed or liked this video, please by the end please do if you're feeling like you want to stay in touch with these videos, as they will be coming out quite regularly now. So it's been such an interesting time when I cast my mind back to the start of last year, and there were so many messages coming in and there were quite a lot to sit with. And the reason why I say that is because they were quite drastic events that were going to be taking place on the earth and in our societal programming and structure. And within that space, I was holding other psychics that were receiving the same or similar information, and they needed my support. So I spent a lot of that time supporting others, but actually now my channel has said, it's time for you to get this out. So here I am. Here I am trusting to land a message that was, all the way from this time last year. How interesting, right? Because as someone that works with future energy in readings and in guidance and being able to see that, it makes total sense that this is only coming into fruition now. So the first message I want to share today is around the earth consciousness and how there are going to be drastic weather changes with her energy. So what I mean by that is, what I was shown was there's going to be a lot of flooding and sea levels are actually going to rise. And the reason for this is because there is a movement in the plates in her sort of earth crust, and she is going to earth it's just the word earth crust that just really cracked me up. Anyway, so yeah, in her earth core crust, I'm trying not to say it without laughing, but there is going to be changes there, and it's really interesting because this time last year I was living 30 seconds from the sea and I was receiving all this information around sea levels are going to rise and there is going to be some sort of water flooding event that we are going to experience in 2026 up until the end of 2027. So within that space, I realised I don't feel comfortable with this. So I ended up moving to higher ground, somewhere much higher sea level. I was looking at sea levels when I was looking to buy a property, and have moved more inland for that reason. And also to be closer to my community as well, of women that I have so much joy and fun with. But the thing is that within that space of these sea levels rising, is that it's actually the earth is reclaiming herself. Because what's happening is there's so much manipulation of her. We've got climate warming, we've got these drastic hurricanes that are coming in that have been designed to start eliminating natural places, so then ownership can come in and take over with more technology and digital structure. So it's just so fascinating when you actually tune into the earth's energy and you receive her information, and she is given this space to speak and have a voice because she doesn't have that at the moment. So what we're going to start to see is a lot of women returning back to the earth, and what I mean by that is this connection. There is a reason behind so many women claiming and tapping into this witchy part of themselves. It's because they're returning back to land, because that's where we're from. That's what we've always been connected with. And isn't that beautiful? How did we, when we stop and think about how did we get from, connecting to the land and having ceremonies and tea and just being with nature and creating all this beautiful way of life, to now worrying what we're looking like on Instagram. It's just so bizarre, isn't it? And we're all part of this, and it's just great that there's a shift in that sense as well. But what the earth is really inviting us to do is to listen to her and listen to what comes up in our system and our fields of our bodies, because our bodies are connected to the earth. We are part of her. Humans are part of this earth. That's why we're here, right? So there's an encouragement to, you don't have to, go out and be in nature all the time and, I don't know, stop planting trees. That's great if you want to, by the way, that's really helpful. But what I don't want to do is then in this message is sort of maybe make people feel guilty if they can't connect to her. But the thing is, you are already connected to her. And this is something that came up for me recently when I was having some nature Reiki, which was amazing, was actually there's no separation from her. You just have to step into yourself. There is this invitation for you to really step into who you truly are and to feel into that in your system, in your body, and in your spirit to actually create this alignment to what she needs. It's not all about us, being with this God energy. Sometimes it is returning back to the earth as well. Because even our spirit is from, let's say, connected to the Creator and God, we also have a body that's connected to the earth. And actually, there's two sides of this and two sides of this connection. So, actually, you being yourself is in alignment to both things, but we're just talking about the earth connection here right now. And a lot of females will want to slow down as well. And a lot of females want to start using their voice. And a lot of females will start to come into this full, authentic expression this year, even more so as we're coming from shedding of the snake year in Chinese astrology. And after the Lunar New Year, we come into the fire horse, which is going to move us all forwards to be in that alignment even more so, like never before. Very exciting. Ooh, very, very exciting. But this is in sync with her because she is fed up with this manipulation. And it's very interesting how this is all popping up around the use of AI as well, because really, like her weather events are being, it's almost like an AI of it because it's been manipulated. So what I mean by that is that, it's very easy to design weather. It's been proven that we can do that, or that is happening, and it has been happening for some time. But there is almost going to be like a spike in that. And imagine it's almost like, a scenario where someone maybe has painted a picture of who you are without knowing you, and you have to sit with that, and that's kind of what's happening for her. And actually just, acknowledging her, you being yourself, and just remembering her, and maybe just listening, or just placing your hands on the earth and just taking some time to listen is actually really, really good. And you don't always have to be in woodlands and forests and nature to have that connection with her. And this is a message that came in my nature Reiki session recently, is that you can just look at the sun and connect to nature, or you can just look at water or a tree. It doesn't have to be that pressure to always really be immersed in nature. So within all that, her stance and her kind of way of reclaiming herself is by this event, this flooding. And for many of us, we will remember this flood from the Atlantis times, when Atlantis was, destroyed. So for many of us, this has been popping up in our psyche and in our systems of connecting to that time and just thinking, oh gosh, is that going to happen again? And I was definitely there at those times, and I think it did bring up a lot for me at the start of last year, but I'm comfortable with it now because I'm like, yeah, it's not going to happen again. Yeah, we will manage it. So within that space of, all these potentials that are coming out, all these predictions around this weather event, there's also going to be a closure of banks and also power cuts as well. So there's a real awareness around, oh, my ears just rang then, so I feel like that is extra confirmation. But there's a real desire to share this message with you all, to have cash, maybe a couple of £100 or wherever you're from, cash or whatever you can put into cash and save, just to keep some in the house, and then start bulk buying supplies. So you're looking at, rice, beans, pulses, cans of food, but also having access to clean water. So if you can't access a natural spring, and it's really good to find out where your natural spring is and have some awareness of that, which you can find out pretty much online. Maybe if you're in different countries and whatnot, then I'm not entirely sure, but I know in the UK there is a website for natural springs. but also maybe having, something to carry water in or buy big bottles of water and just leave them there. And this is reverting back to old times. And it's really interesting that a friend of mine that I do psychic circles with and we hold that space together told me probably about 3 years ago, we are moving to older times. And actually, as I've sort of listened to him say that over the years, I've kind of been feeling into that, into the here and now. And we are starting to see that shift in terms of people being more resourceful or learning skills instead of buying and sort of stepping away from this consumerism and actually learning how to do things themselves. And that's going to be a really, really big theme for this year going into the end of 2027. And it's such a blessing because actually we are so done with just being these consumers or relying on these systems like the bank and, the power source of electricity. We're actually saying actually we're okay. We're actually okay. We've actually got things set up because actually we've been prepared for this whenever it was to come in. So there will be two streams of consciousness when these events happen because we have the stream of consciousness of those in fear and those that don't feel like they feel abandoned basically. They don't feel like they can, supply and rely on other human beings and community to help. And then there's others that will thrive from this moment of knowing that actually there is community, actually we can rely on one another, and actually I have been preparing for this. So there's a bit of a split. Because the last thing you want to do is to be caught up in the chaos and the fear and that programming to actually step away from that and actually just carry on with your life because you have everything. So if you think about all the things that you have digitalized, maybe it's time to think about how do you undigitalize them if it's something that you use all the time. So for example, like a solar clock instead of a digital clock. All these little things are going to be come back in, like, having maybe access to books, start collecting books on how to do things like making bread or how to ferment food that can last a long time, or maybe start building up a collection of fermentation so you have that in jars ready to eat. Or maybe there are some vegetables or salad that grows quite quickly that you can keep the seeds of, or maybe you're building up a seed collection and you're going to start growing food this year. Perfect. All really good stuff. But it's having those things equipped and ready so that you can, have your setup and be okay with that. And within this kind of like change and this surge of us coming back to ourselves, we are also being called to step into who we truly are and our authenticity. Now, these words get thrown around a lot, and I understand that, but actually, there is a reason why this is coming up again, is because when we move into the fire horse year, we need to come back to community. It's all about collaboration. It's all about community, and it's all about people being their individual powers. And as we have this individual power of self and we come together in this group, that's when communities can actually really, really thrive because everyone has their place. Like they did in the older times. See where I'm going with this? You'd have one person that did one thing and another person that did another. Not everyone into the same stuff and trends and all the cool stuff and drinking culture and all that stuff. And I'm not saying any of that is bad, but it's going to get to a point where we're going to have to go back a bit, and we're going to have to start showing up with a skill and sharing that in community. So when we step into this fire horse year, it's very much about, okay, well, who am I and what is it I'm being in service to that doesn't belong to me? It's part of the collective, really. It's not about us and our ego and our identity, which is going to shift. It's about how can I be in service for the collective or community or in collaboration with the world. And that's quite a big shift because actually no one's going to really care about in times of need how many followers you've got or how do you look, and all these kind of very surface level things. What's going to really matter is how you're supporting each other. And that's going to be such a big shift in this identity space, which is getting very, very skewed at the moment by, I don't know, all these like characters popping up in the followers and keeping everyone constantly on digital platforms and this stimulation away from the natural world. Actually, that's going to be replaced with the person who can really show up for community and give a service, and someone that is, a decent person. So within all of that space of messages, there's one final message that I want to share with you. And actually, this was something that I couldn't speak about for about 5 years. And isn't that funny? Usually people think, oh, channelers just channel and share messages, and they just come through and then they just like share it out loud. Actually, no, I'm actually a person who sits with things quite a lot, because there's things that actually I am not allowed to share and I don't want to share, and that's okay. And there's things that I'm told to share quite instantly. And this message is from 5 years ago, and I was sat in this trance for about 3 hours with a good friend of mine who I do, again, psychic circles with online. And there is this this battle and kind of war around frequency on the earth between species, and we are not the only species that are here. Earth is not ruled by Earth. Earth isn't ruled by humans only. And the reason I'm bringing this up and I want to share this is because there is a calling to return back to the earth, as I've mentioned earlier on in this video. And the reason why is to claim identity and to claim the humanness, because at the moment we're so disconnected from the earth and we're just floating, and this floatingness is where we are being manipulated and steered and controlled. Whereas if we come down back to the earth and come into the heart, we are able to really be in our humanness. You'll see a lot of healers and those that are guides or mentors really sharing about this return back to the earth and return back to heart. And this is why, because there are so many different species that are trying to manipulate and control earth. It's like they're coming in left, right, and centre, and this is like a playground for them. And actually, we've had enough, and it's kind of not in alignment with our values, because our consciousness is growing as well. So if you're feeling that calling to like return back to simpler times, or just to listen to your heart and understand what it is that lights you up in the world and makes you really happy and thrive, and when you're in that state, you're rippling out that frequency for others to step into that. Because have you noticed, humans do mirror each other? So if you're in frequency of a good frequency, and we all have our bad days and we all process stuff, and that is also the human experience, right? But if we could all come into that space, then it's very hard to manipulate that. Yeah. So there is something about returning to the earth and the heart to reclaim this human experience and to all be in that and to take ownership of that. And as we come into that, we'll start to align into this life that we want to provide and we want to live, and we start to inject our values and say, actually, that doesn't align with us. We're not going to do that. And the voice and the power is going to get stronger. And this is also going to cause conflict, but it's not conflict for long. We're just reclaiming what is ours. And many of us have come back into the earth at this time to start reclaiming that and to start speaking and using our voice and channeling what it is that needs to be done and said, to have this experience of where everything is coming to union. So that's everything for today. So lovely to be here with you all. And like I said, these are predictions and feelings and messages from my channel. Always feel into everything yourself. Take what you need from these videos, and I hope to see you again next time. Bye for now.